Hello, everybody. My name is Miguel, founder of Gumroad Media, and today we have David Seigel. Sorry, I'm screwing about that. What is your last name? How do you say it?
You make the same sound as the animated image format.
Okay, how does that sound?
It's Seigel.
Seigel. Oh, like
Yeah.
Seigel. Okay.
Yeah, just, usually if people can't hear me, I flap my arms like that.
David
Yeah.
Seigel. I love
That's
it.
right.
Fantastic. So David Seigel is the co-founder, right?
That's right.
Of Glidepps. And to me, Glidepps is probably the best no-code app building tool out there. And I tried a bunch of different ones. I know it's a very competitive space. It's been growing dramatically over the last couple of years. And you guys are a fairly recent newcomer into the space. But from what I've seen after years of testing no-code app building tools, I see a very bright future with Glide. And I've built already 8 apps with you guys. I actually launched an app last week using Glide, and I would like it for it to be a great success case of an app that is monetized and is built without any code. And yeah, I've been selling templates also through your template store. Mm-hmm. So there's many ways of monetizing no-code apps right now. And I think you've made it super, super easy for people to build beautiful apps, beautiful, without having no idea of coding whatsoever. And the reason why I'm inviting you to my channel is because last year I produced many tutorials, 50 tutorials. And out of 50 tutorials, the tutorial that I did on how to create apps without coding using Glide was by far the most successful one, which tells me there's a huge demand for this type of no-code building tools. So right now it has over 155,000 views, which to me is a lot for this channel. Now I got tons of questions from people watching this video regarding what are the limitations and potential of no-code apps.
Yeah.
So having said that, let me just go, if it's okay, just to some of the questions that they have about the product. Then maybe we can talk a little bit about the company and the future of the company, and then maybe a little bit about your background, right?
Sure. Sounds
let's
great.
Do it. So the main question I get all the time, what is the main difference between a native app and a no-code, or they call it progressive web app, which is what Glide allows you to build?
What the main difference is that a native app is distributed through an app store.
Okay.
And a progressive web app that we build with Glide is distributed like any website in a web browser. There are many differences, but if the question is, what is the main one? I would call that the main one.
Okay.
And yeah, I could explain other interesting differences.
Okay. All right. So now what are because a lot of people are like, okay, I want to build an app, and then they get confused. Okay, so this is kind of like a web app, but I also can install it on my computer. Now, what are the limitations of a progressive web app versus a traditional native app?
There are many, and there are benefits as well. So before I answer this question further, I think there's a point of clarification I can give.
Okay.
That will help a lot of people. Our focus at Glide is not to build the kind of apps that you're accustomed to installing on your iPhone that you use for fun and pleasure.
Okay.
We're not trying to be a platform to make the next Airbnb app from the App Store, for example, or to make Uber or Instagram.
Yeah.
Most people in their day-to-day life are familiar with these apps. These are the most popular apps in the world. But Glide was born to focus from the first day on something that we originally called dark apps.
Okay.
And dark apps are apps that aren't in app stores.
Okay.
And specifically, dark apps are created by businesses for private use by their employees, for example.
Okay.
So that the expertise and the experience of the founding Glide team, we've spent about 6 years working on products for companies who are building apps for their employees to improve how their businesses run. Most software in the world is created privately at companies, and it's not on the internet, and it's not available for public use. A metaphor that's nice to think about is an iceberg. And like the tip of the iceberg is like apps in the app store. And then the huge body of the iceberg is all the software that businesses create.
Okay.
And it's kind of hard to tell from how we present Glide, because we kind of present it as this this open-ended thing that anyone can use, and it is that, and you can build any type of app with it. But our focus is not on helping you publish to the App Store something that's going to compete with like Twitter.
I see.
Because that's not a business for us. Because most of those apps will never work.
Yeah.
That's one thing we battle with a little bit. It's helped us get a lot of early adopters, but a lot of people think that an app is a lottery ticket that's going to like make them millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And most apps they don't succeed, and making an app is not a good way to get rich.
Yeah.
So we do see a lot of people who are like, they're interested in app stores because they want to make something that's going to get a billion users and they're going to become the next Mark Zuckerberg. We're not working on helping you do that at all.
Okay. I think it's a very important misconception that most of my audience, including myself, had, because the moment I saw you can build apps, no code, this is great, let's build an Instagram. And in fact, if you see through the comments on that video tutorial that I have, a lot of people are like, how big of an app can I build using Glide?
Yeah.
And I guess it doesn't come across clearly on your landing page that this is not for consumer-facing apps so much that would grow into millions, that it would raise millions of dollars, as to like maybe the main use is for internal apps that you call dark or work apps that solve specific problems within a company.
Yeah.
And okay, that's really good to know, because I think
we stopped calling them dark apps because that sounds kind of sinister. We call them now apps for work.
Okay.
And if you go to the Glide landing page, the first example of an app is an employee directory.
That's right.
And then there's like delivery management, inventory, property management, etc. And none of these are, apps to compete with. It's not you build your own Yelp or build your own TikTok. People ask every day, how do I make TikTok?
Of course, yeah.
And we're like, well, we're not a TikTok platform. So you can prototype apps, you can build consumer-facing apps, you can create public-facing apps.
Yeah.
But it's important for people to know that it's not our agenda
to
help you make the next TikTok.
Okay.
So if we don't have a feature that's really important for you to make the next TikTok, don't count on us making it because that's not the customer that we're going after.
That's going to be that already solves a big misconception that people have. You're not supposed to use Glide to build the next TikTok. At the same time, it's a great tool to do fast prototyping for either work apps or consumer apps. In my case, I've created 10 different apps, right? And the last one is basically a collection of short advice, entrepreneurial advice, and people record sound bits and stuff like that. Now, eventually, I would like for this app to be big, but I know that Glide is not the place for it to scale, but I know it's good enough to validate it. So what I did, I created this mock-up, and within 1 week, I launched it. I got 56 people subscribing. So that gives me just enough of an idea that there may be a potential for this app, but really, I would have to start thinking very soon, if I want to scale this, how would I transition from this prototype towards more of a native app? Is that correct?
Well, it depends. I mean, we have Glide apps with hundreds of thousands of users.
Oh, wow. Okay, I was going to ask you, how big of an app can you really create that would have the ideal performance within Glide? So that's a big app, 100,000.
It depends on how people interact with the app.
Okay.
So Glide is not good for making a YouTube app.
Okay.
So if you have 1,000 users and they each upload a gigabyte a day, like we don't really offer options to like buy that much storage.
Yeah.
But if you have an app that's like a resource directory for thousands upon thousands of users, like that's totally fine. And Glide, we are improving scalability. Like scalability is not one of Glide's main limitations. Glide has a lot of limits as a younger platform, but like the number of users who can use your app is like not a very important limit.
Okay, well, that's actually very encouraging. So although it's not designed to create consumer-facing apps per se, it does have the ability to scale to a level where you could build a pretty sizable business using just Glide's internal infrastructure.
Definitely.
That's really good.
And I mean, for people who are interested in making money by creating apps, there actually is a very good way to do that. But it's not by making the next TikTok. It's by building apps for companies who have a real problem solved by an app who will pay you money for it today. Okay. And there are a lot of companies who will do that. So we know people who are completely making a living
Okay, that was
on
going to be one of
Glide.
my questions. Is it
Yeah,
possible today, as a Glide developer with zero coding skills, to make a good living building Glide apps?
definitely.
All right.
And you can start making money today. If you try to make the next Facebook, you're probably going to make zero. You're
Okay.
probably going to make negative,
Yes.
and it's going to take a long time
Yeah.
and a lot of luck. But if you find a business, this is a hot new area of new jobs. People who become experts in no-code tools and
Yeah.
can help companies solve problems
Yeah.
and build software much more quickly, 10, 100 times more quickly than custom software development.
Yeah. When you say 100 times or 200 times quicker, I want to emphasize how true is that, because I actually went and I tried to build the same app using React Native, which is a tool to build native apps for both the iPhone and Android store. And just the process of installing the software to get started to develop the app took me almost 2 hours.
Yeah.
Without not learning how to code. This is just installing the programming environment to get started. Within that time, I could have deployed 2 or 3 apps on Glide, fully functional, using existing templates.
Yeah.
I want people to understand the difference in effort. It's like no in-between world. It's either you go native or you go no code, and the difference in effort and resources needed to do one or the other is we're talking orders of magnitude.
Yeah. And that's another important difference between publishing an app in the App Store and publishing an app like a Glide app.
Yeah.
I would compare publishing an app in the App Store as like publishing a book.
Yes.
A printed physical book,
Okay.
which is cheaper than ever, I'm sure. But at one point, like, you would only publish a real book if you had money.
Yeah.
And a real need to do it.
Of course.
You wouldn't just publish a real physical book for fun.
Okay.
And I would compare that to publishing a blog post.
Mm-hmm.
The Glide app is more like publishing a blog post. You can do it for free. It takes 5 minutes. And if you want, 1 million people can read it.
And you don't have to go through an approval process or pay a yearly fee to be able to be listed on the marketplace.
And publishing in the app stores is still quite an onerous process that is designed only for people with a real need to actually have their app in the App Store. It's designed for them to succeed and for other people not to succeed.
Okay.
So people come to Glide all the time. They say, I really want to publish my app in the App Store. It's a list of what I want for my birthday.
Yeah.
And Apple does not want that app in the App Store because no one with an iPhone wants that app.
Of course, that's true.
So they structure the App Store to keep you out. They want you to pay a small fee to join the App Store, to go through an approval process. And they have vague criteria, like the app must have broad appeal or something like that. So they can have a lot of latitude to prohibit things.
Okay.
But you can make a Glide app that is incredibly niche.
Yes.
You can make a Glide app that is for your dentist to organize their inventory.
Yeah.
And it's only for that dentist.
Yes.
You know, that's the beauty of custom software, is it can't be too narrow. And it can't be rejected by someone. So that's the bet that we made.
I think that people have to realize that there's a huge opportunity in creating niche apps for businesses versus trying to go for the big swinging the fences type of app that most likely, statistically, even if you had the resources, you wouldn't be successful most of the time. And I'm actually a case study for YouTube, because I published on the Glide Marketplace 2 apps already that are specific to selling courses and quizzes. And they're already selling, right? I'm not an expert developer, but I was able to build these apps over a couple of weeks. And now I can see sales coming in. So I'm very grateful for you guys to allow me this new source of income. But I'm not like a genius coder. So really, as long as you have a very specific use case that is niche, that solves a business problem, you're probably going to find a market, probably with more money in their pockets than the traditional consumer app. Okay, that's great.
Another thing I can include that's an interesting point of perspective on Glide is we only use the word app because we couldn't find a better one to describe custom software.
Yeah.
We don't like saying create a custom software or a custom
That's very
tool.
boring. Yeah.
It's like it's this interactive, automated, visual software stuff.
Yeah.
And we only started with a phone because it's the easiest thing to design a builder environment for. But we're very quickly going to start offering like larger screen layouts, desktop and web.
Okay.
And we want the Glide app to be responsive between these form factors. So if you run it on the phone, it looks like a mobile app.
Okay.
And if you run it on your laptop, it works. It's more comfortable in like a sort of a PC form factor.
Okay.
So Glide is not designed to be a mobile specific builder tool. It's just where we started and where we kind of specialized.
Yeah. That brings me to another advantage of using the progressive web app approach, which is if you are so focused on creating a native app, you must remember a native app can only be consumed within a mobile device. You cannot send people to a URL and start using your app right away. Now, there's still a big, I notice a lot of people get confused with that because when you say app, they immediately think Apple Store, Android Store. Right?
Yeah.
I think over the next few years, people are going to be more educated into, okay, well, this is an app, but it's more of a web app that I can install in my phone, and it looks like a native app. But in reality, it's just a website that you can access from any kind of browser, which gives you a lot more flexibility as well. No, that's really good. Can I make my Glide app into a native app, and how would I go about doing that?
So yeah, usually people who ask this question, what they mean is, how can I get this app into the App Store?
Yes.
They don't mean, Glide is implemented in JavaScript. They don't mean, how can I have it implemented in Kotlin or JVM bytecode or Swift?
Yeah.
So we don't support publishing to the App Store right now. I know a lot of people do publish apps to the App Store with like tools that will wrap your Glide app in a native wrapper. And you can find people who have done that on our community forum. Someone just posted, they made an app for bridesmaids parties.
Okay.
To split expenses and share their schedule. I actually have an app for my upcoming wedding with all of our guests in it. It's a custom wedding app.
Oh yeah.
And that is published to the App Store. So there's services that can wrap any web app in a container that can go to the App Store. But we don't claim that it's supported. We know there are some features that may not work. That require coordination with us that we're not supporting right now. And the only reason is that, our main customer focus is businesses that want custom private software, like I mentioned before, and none of them ask us to put those things in the App Store.
Because they're going to be used for private or internal use. So there's not for the general public to access them in the first place.
Yeah.
I want to make 2 points here. In a different interview, from a YouTube channel called, I think, No Code Tech, which is a very small channel that you just did an interview for. You mentioned something that I found very inspirational and very smart from your perspective, which was you wanted to make building apps fun.
Yeah.
Whereas traditionally, anything related to coding is not associated with the word fun. It's more like, oh my God, it's going to be a pain in the ass to do this. It's going to be very expensive. And I would say that when I started using your software, it was the first time that I thought I'm actually having fun building software. And so anyways, I just want to say that you accomplished that goal, at least in one individual.
I'm glad you felt that way.
And it was pretty amazing. The second thing I want to mention is that one of the reasons why I fell in love with the platform from the beginning was not just because it was fun to create apps, which looked beautiful from the start, and it was very easy. It's because the community, the support community at Glide Apps, and I'm sure that everybody that has been part of the community can agree, is extremely active. There's at least 10 individuals that answer questions almost within minutes, including you. And that's the part that I was like, this is the CEO going to the trenches, answering questions within 5 minutes. My first question got answered, not just by any random dude in the community, it was by you. And I haven't seen that level of commitment. And I wonder where that comes from. Like, is that what that motivates you to be on the trenches at this stage?
Well, a CEO is just any person who calls themselves a CEO. So don't be too impressed.
Okay.
There's no certification process. You just go, I'm CEO, and then it's done.
Okay. But you have the title for in the company. Okay.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, it's very important, especially.
Yeah.
Well, another thing that's important to clarify is Glide is a very young startup.
Okay.
And
2 years old, about, right?
2.5 years old.
2.5 years old, yeah.
And we launched February 19th, 2019.
Okay.
And we view Glide more as a process of learning what to build than the thing that we have on the market today.
Okay.
So we're very engaged with our customers and our community, and always asking questions, and always changing Glide. And our ambition, we started with this thing that we say, turn a spreadsheet into a mobile app.
Yeah, that's very easy to explain. Yeah,
it's easy to explain.
Yeah.
It refers to two things people are very familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
What we want to do is to create an extremely large company that makes delightful software development tools for everyone, a huge range of them.
Okay.
And maybe you could think about it, I would say Microsoft was a company that started creating tools for software creation. And maybe we're making the no-code Microsoft, or like the Microsoft who builds tools for everyone to create with, and not just the technical people. So that's the ambition of the company.
Okay.
So what we need to do is we have to take this small thing, Google Sheet to iPhone, and how do we keep expanding it and growing it and building a business around it to actually create something that is very large and has a huge impact.
Okay, that makes sense. And it's smart to start narrowing down in something that people understand, and then having a larger vision that can become the Microsoft of no-code apps. And for people that don't know, David, he actually used to work for Microsoft, right? For several years.
Yeah,
so
2 years. Yeah.
For 2 years. So you understand how a big organization works. And
I've worked on developer tools for a long time in open source, and I'm a coder.
Oh, yes.
I know how to write code. I've done it for 20 years. I love it.
Yeah.
I think it's an amazing and very rewarding thing to learn. I would not tell you not to learn how to code. I would say if you're interested, it's very rewarding. And I think there's a lot of beauty in it too. And we try to draw upon some of those beautiful but rare to access aspects of software creation and bring them into Glide to give people that same sense of beauty and sense of creativity and sense of power. We just love the idea of sharing that feeling of fun and excitement and creation that's available to people who know how to make software, and just making that more and more broad. And we don't even use the term no code. Because what we think we're doing is inventing a better way to make software. And there are many aspects that make it better. And one of them is that it's for a broader audience. That's just one of the aspects that's better.
Okay. Now, on the footer of your website, you clearly state that your vision by 2030 is to have 1 billion, or help create 1 billion software developers.
Yeah.
So when you say software developers, you mean people that it's just people that don't know how to code primarily, and allow them to be able to build beautiful software without the hardcore coding skills? Or is that your main target demographic, or it would be just anybody in general?
Well, we define a software developer as someone who creates software.
Okay. So
so we just want to make 1 billion of those, 1 billion new ones.
Okay.
And it's okay if they also know how to code, but we want to be the thing that takes them from someone who can't make software to someone who can. And that if we do that 1 billion times, then we achieve the mission.
Okay, that's a big mission. That's awesome. I mean, you're good and on the way to accomplish that, right?
Definitely, yeah. Making more progress every day.
Can you disclose how many users do you have right now?
No. I'll just say it's a big number. It's going better than we ever thought it could. It's not close to 1 billion. We still have a long way to go.
I send you a lot because you guys have a referral program that gives you like 3 rows, and I'm at almost 12,000 rows, which means I send you about 500 people or something like that. So,
yeah.
So if everybody sends you 500 people, you're going to get to 1 billion really, really quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, we have quite a lot of users. A lot of people sign up for Glide and they don't find an enduring use for it yet.
Okay, yeah.
So that's a pretty interesting problem. So we have people who are curious about it and they maybe play with some templates, but they don't quite make the app that solves the problem that's important for them to keep using it. And we're just very interested in that phenomenon.
Okay, I have a suggestion that you maybe thought about. From my experience selling online courses and helping people monetize their knowledge, the biggest gap people have is the technical, resolving the technical barrier to be able to get from the idea to monetizing that idea somehow. In my realm, which is selling online courses, is you have knowledge. Now, how do I sell these courses? What is the technical steps that I have to take to do that? And I'm trying to close that gap. So it's very easy for people to monetize their knowledge. When it comes down to apps, I can foresee, and I'm seeing already, that people would be very interested in sticking with Glide if you can make it very easy for them to monetize their apps, not just by selling them, which is already a solution, selling the templates, but by having apps that allow them to create, which you already have, like selling physical products, digital products, memberships, anything that allows them to say, okay, I have this app, I can spend a couple of weeks coding it. Now, how can I start making money through this app? Right? And then they'll be like, okay, well, of course, I'm going to spend $32 a month or whatever it is for the premium version because I can monetize all my effort. And you made it very easy to do so. Right? So that's, I'm sure you've thought about it, but I want to push that concept because that's going to get people very excited to start building software. Not just because they want to do like a wedding app or something cute, which I've done also for my mom. I created a poem app she could upload. She uploaded 372 poems. She recorded and uploaded them. And it's a beautiful thing to connect with my family. But that doesn't have that monetization component that would get me super excited to build a business around building apps, right? And I think pushing that aspect could make people super excited. Anyways, and I
definitely.
Okay, so you said there's a lot of people, or at least several developers that are making a full-time living building apps for other people using Glide. That's great.
That's right.
Do you have success stories of people that are making a good living through the app itself? Like they're selling products or whatever they're selling through the app?
You know, it's not something we focus on, is like telling, and maybe this is a mistake we're making. But we don't want to talk about Glide as a way to make money. As much as we want to talk about Glide as a way to improve your business. And I think that is a real market of people who are just like, I want to make money. How do I make money? Here's how I do it with Glide. I'll use Glide. That's definitely like a way to create Glide as a business. But it will also change all of our priorities to be about like commerce and creating stores and stuff like that. We're not trying to be like Shopify for your iPhone. We don't want that. That's not our strategy. So there is a balance between, you know, we do have a buy button. You can sell stuff in Glide apps. One thing we would love to do is like, maybe you can create an app in Glide and then you can set a per user price and then you could sell that app to a company. So we have, you know, I know a Glide expert who made an app for legal firms and he charges $50 a month per user of this app.
Per user. Wow.
And he sells this to, you know, that's a guess. It's somewhere around there. Maybe it's 50 pounds. And he monetizes based on the number of people in the company using the app. And that's how software is sold to companies in general. It's based on the number of users.
Like seats.
It's not based on the transactions they do in the app or how many months they're subscribed, for example. So that's the model of software monetization that we're very interested in, is like the Slack model. A company with 10 Slack users pays much less than a company with 10,000. We want Glide's business to scale with its use within companies. So we're mostly focused on that. Although I think you're totally right. If we were to invest in how do people sell Glide apps, how do people sell more stuff in Glide apps, we would definitely do business there and get a lot more energy adoption of those features.
But it's really good that you have a very clear vision. And I think this interview is great to clarify that, because to me it wasn't clear until you just mentioned it. And it's going to make sure that my audience understands where are you heading towards, and where you're going to put most of your efforts based on that vision. So that's fantastic. Now, let's talk a little bit about, so Glide is not the only player in this world of no-code apps, right? And you are not the newest one. You're growing. I don't know if you're growing the fastest, but you probably are one of the fastest growing no-code building tools out there. Now, why would somebody, if you're okay talking about this, should you choose you over tools like Adalo or Bubble, which are now they have a lot more features and they're more established. Why do you think you're a better option for building apps?
Well, it highly depends on what your goal is.
Okay.
So I would say, like, if you're building a public facing app and it has to be in the App Store, you shouldn't use Glide because that's not something we're focused on. It's not features that we offer.
Yeah.
And I would say if you're really interested in having a great experience on mobile, you should choose Glide because we make a lot of that easy and by default. Like building a good mobile experience on Bubble is quite difficult compared to Glide.
Okay.
Because Bubble started as more of like a large format web design environment. So doing the mobile features, the navigation that we do, and we do the subtle adaptation to Android versus iOS, that's all automatic on Glide.
Okay.
We are, in general, we're trying to make a lot of design decisions for you when you build with Glide. That's another thing. If you like have to do some custom design, and design is the competitive part of your app, and specialized custom design is important to you, Glide is not optimized. It's not a design tool.
That's right. Okay.
We optimize for like you very quickly creating a great app, and you don't care too much about the gradients in the title bar or something like that.
Having said that, you allow very easily to change the color scheme, and the good thing is that you're already choosing color scheme and design features that look already good.
Yeah, it's a bit of a Thank you for clarifying. I would say your Glide app is going to look better than apps built with these other tools.
Yes,
but it's not because you did anything. Like it's just going to be automatic. And those, to the credit of those other tools, your Glide app will look a lot more like other Glide apps. It's a lot less special.
Yeah.
That probably doesn't matter, especially if that app is for the employees in your company.
They don't care about
they're not going to see the other Glide apps at the other company that are doing basically the same thing. They're going to say, wow, you made this in one day and you can update it and it works well and it's secure. Fantastic. Yeah. So I think Glide apps look great. That's a big goal of ours. We're even going to push that even further in the next few months, improving the look and feel, modernizing them even more.
Oh, okay. That's great to hear.
But that stems from our principle that software is not only about code, it is probably equally about design. And not only are most people not coders, most people are not designers.
That's true.
So if we're going to help you make software and you don't know how to write code and you don't know how to design software that looks good, we're going to do that for you. So that's part of what Glide does. And then there are many other benefits to picking Glide, like just rapid iteration. If you make a change, it's live instantly. Glide is sometimes too rapidly iterating. People say, can you please slow it down so I can make changes and preview them before they go live? So we're working on that.
Okay. So like a staging feature. Yeah. Yeah.
Drafts or staging. Another thing, Glide makes a lot of decisions for you when the phone's running on a phone, when the app is running on a phone versus in a browser on a tablet. We are trying to automate as much of those form factor changes as possible. Okay. So you just have a concept of your app, like, okay, I need to track the deliveries from our grocery store. And someone says, well, how's it going to look on an Android tablet? And you just have to say, I know it's going to look good and I don't have to care about it because the designers at Glide thought about that for me and made good choices. So you don't have to sort of think about all the different devices.
And I want to also, from me trying to use all the other apps, including coding apps natively, people don't realize how difficult it is to make things look beautiful, even if you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like creating good user interfaces is something that I would say is as hard, if not harder, than being a programmer itself. Yeah. And people don't, they're like, oh, I want the flexibility to be able to change the look. And I would ask them the question, do you really want that flexibility? Because you're just basically doubling the amount of work. You're going to have to do the work of coding or no coding through blocks, plus trying to make it look beautiful. Now it's just double the work right there. What you're doing is, let me get rid of the design aspect we have good in-house designers that have been doing this for years. We're going to make sure your app looks fantastic and is slightly customizable. You just focus on creating the logic and the functionality.
Yeah.
And then that's it. And I think that in itself it's a great move, because having more options sometimes is not the best solution.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sort of thinking, I was just thinking about a new metaphor for how to describe this.
Yeah.
And it's like, the difference between someone who would like build their own car and someone who just gets an Uber.
That's true.
If you just get an Uber, like you can't really like pick the color of the car, but you're just interested in going somewhere.
Yes.
And that's a different interest from someone who wants to create a new type of car.
Yeah, that's true.
Those are both valid interests, but they're different, and different people feel differently. Yeah. So Glide is, if you want to get somewhere fast and you want it to be, safe and beautiful, like we're going to do it. But if you want something that are highly custom and unique, that's not the case we're optimizing for. We're optimizing for the common cases.
And having said that, there is pretty amazing stuff. It looks like I'm doing an ad for you guys, but I guess I am, because it's true. I really like the.
Yeah, that's why I gave you that big sack of Bitcoin before we started this.
I know. Thank you. I cut this part out. So it's that you can actually do pretty amazing stuff in terms of logic through this thing called actions. So actions is like a lightweight programming tool that is drag and drop pretty much, which has if and then statements. Yeah. With that alone, the amount of stuff you can do is mind blowing. And I'm sure you're going to be working to make that kind of no-code programming even more powerful. Yeah. Is that correct?
Yeah. So this is another interesting point of distinction about Glide. This is true of the other tools, like you mentioned, Bubble and Adalo.
Yeah.
And I think they probably feel the same way that we do.
Okay.
But when you're making a Glide app, we call it programming.
Yes.
And the reason we call it programming, one, it is programming. But two, it reminds us of all that we should learn from the old type of technical sort of computer code-based programming.
Okay.
Which is that if you can create a set of concepts that are kind of reusable and that can combine with each other and recombine to create new combinations, people are very clever, and they can take those rule systems and they can solve novel problems.
Yeah.
That's sort of like a high-level description of programming.
The analogy that I use is it's very much like Lego, in the sense that you provide people with components or bricks that are already fully functional and they look beautiful and that they fit with each other perfectly.
Yeah.
But just even though you're constrained by the amount of Lego pieces that you have, which in this case, let's say it's 100, not millions, you still, the combinations of things you can do with 100 bricks is almost infinite.
Yeah.
Right. But you don't have to worry about building each brick individually. Right. You can use that in the next pitch.
That's a great comparison. I mean, that was when Glide was just a twinkle in our eyes.
Yeah.
We imagined the sort of the universe of all software you could create.
Yeah.
And we just said, what if we just cut off the edges of this universe and we made it into like we made it into a Lego,
Exactly.
Like if you could only make stuff in that section of the universe that was a little bit limited, what would be the benefit? Like what could the trade-off that we could make?
Yeah.
Like if we could make the software 100 times easier, which I don't think is an exaggeration, it could even be
I agree.
better than that.
Mm-hmm.
If we can make it 100 times faster to develop software, but we cut out the less common cases and we like really, really optimize the things that most people want to make most of the time, is that a worthwhile trade-off?
Mm-hmm.
And we think it is so far.
I agree. So I'm very bullish about Glide, as you can see. And even if you get to 10% of your goal of 1 billion developers, you're going to be a huge company, like in the $1 billion valuation, right?
Yeah.
How can we invest in this company? Could you open it like that the Gumroad did to his users and allow people to put $100, $1,000, and share on the good things to come?
That's an interesting idea that we could consider for sure. Yeah, I saw that Gumroad thing, and I do like this idea that the community is sort of helping to build the company.
Yeah.
And one thing we're doing right now is we're trying to hire from our community.
Okay. I noticed that. Yeah.
And that's great because people are kind of pre-trained. And one of the most important things for someone to join your company is they care about what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And we see that already from people from the community. So that's one way you could actually like join our company.
But we want equity.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you join the company, that's
of course. Yeah. If you're part in the payroll, you have you have some shares, obviously.
But yeah, sort of community investing, that will be interesting to try to figure out. One thing I alluded to at the beginning of this conversation is that there is quite a misalignment between the people who are interested in Glide right now and where we think we're going.
Yes.
So if you're in our community and you're like, I built TikTok on Glide and I want to invest, well, maybe like we need to clarify some things with you before like where this company's going. So I don't know if that's a real problem.
But I think it's a matter of, at the end of the day, people want to create apps that are widely successful, but maybe they have to be re-educated into that you can have a widely successful business without building the next Facebook, and that is just like a utopian world. And the realistic way of thinking building apps is that there is a huge opportunity to build smaller apps that are tremendously profitable.
Yeah.
And if once people understand that concept, I'm sure they'll be like, well, forget this TikTok idea. How can I help my local business sell more whatever gadgets that they have? All right.
MakerPad and Apps Without Code both went through this transformation as well. Mm-hmm. And we didn't go through the transformation. We knew, I think, from day one who we wanted our customer to be. But I talked to the CEO, Tara, the CEO of Apps Without Code. Okay. And they said that they changed all of their tutorials because they said they were getting all of these people who wanted to make the next Airbnb.
Yeah.
And that never goes anywhere because there's either going to be like 0 or 1 next Airbnbs in the next 5 years.
I know.
Like it's probably going to still be Airbnb in 5 years and maybe someone else will upset it, but like that no one's going to succeed there. So they had they added sort of an entrepreneurial survey, I think, to explain to people like what real opportunities actually exist.
Yeah.
And how you could find a business who needs software and help them with that. So it's pretty exciting to see everyone, learning these lessons at the same time.
Yeah, I think it's early days. Within the next couple of years, people will start realizing that there is a huge opportunity there for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm one of those. That's why I have two apps on your Glide marketplace, and I can already see income coming in, which is great. So now in terms of the future, this is more company-wise in terms of your vision. Do you have like an exit strategy? Do you want to be acquired, IPO, or it's too early to even consider something like that? Because you have investors, so they probably want to exit somehow.
Well, we want to achieve our mission.
Yeah.
And if we achieve the mission, we think it will require becoming a very large company, and it will also make us a very large company in a virtuous cycle.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's what we've seen so far. And so that will create an enormous amount of value if we accomplish the mission. So that's what we think of in terms. It's obviously not an exit strategy, but we didn't make Glide to do anything but achieve the mission.
Okay, and I think it's a good way of looking at it. So, I mean, most people, they think, oh, you want to start a company? Yeah, I want to do it because I want to have a huge exit strategy. But if you think that way and you're not focusing on the vision, it's very unlikely you're going to meet that vision in the first place, because now you're focusing on a different thing, which is, how can I become very wealthy by exiting this company, right? And I think this is important for people. And I'm asking this question because when people use your software, they're investing in the future of this company. Because if you exit tomorrow and then you shut down Glide, all my effort, all my apps is going to go away. But it's good to hear from the CEO that you're committed to the long term, to accomplish that vision, which is obviously going to take at least a decade, right? So we know that you're going to be in business trying to accomplish this for at least 10 more years, correct?
That's my plan.
Okay, good. All right, I'm holding you to it.
Yeah. I mean, I can say just very clearly, we didn't make Glide to like sell it right away and shut it down to some large company.
Okay.
That doesn't. I know the founders very well, who I started the company with. I've known them for many years, and that's not one of our motivations.
Fantastic. That's great to hear.
It's not a promise; it won't happen. But it's just, we're just not interested.
Okay, you're gonna get. I'm sure you got like offers already. I know any company that start getting any traction within the first 2 years, they start getting offers. Have you got any offers for being acquired?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, so that's a good indication that you're providing enough value that investors are interested in being part of it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Okay, so this is more of on the personal side, just like the final thoughts. Obviously, I mean, I would consider you as a successful company already, but most people don't realize that this is not a success that happened overnight. And you and your team has almost a decade or more decade of experience building companies and software in the past, correct?
Yeah.
Now, in terms of, is this the first time that you ran the company as a CEO? It's like your first round at being a CEO?
That's right.
And is this something that, how have you learned to do this? Is in the job? Do you have mentors? Did you read books? How have you prepared yourself to be a good leader for a company that eventually is going to be a very good company?
I've been relentlessly introspective for the last 25 years or so. And I studied philosophy in university with the goal of sort of understanding my thought process and my mind and my values, and also developing other skills that would be useful in a leadership position, like rhetoric, arguing.
Wow, really?
Yeah. So I've been preparing for a while because since I was very young, I thought just computers were so fascinating, and I knew that I wanted to somehow innovate or do a new computery thing.
Yeah.
So I thought about it for a while, and I got a lot of critical feedback in my career about my own personal shortcomings and my mistakes. And my attitude towards those was to try to improve, because I knew that they would limit me or make me fail later on. So just a spirit of self-improvement, with this goal in mind of being a good leader to a company at some point. It just took a lot of planning and a lot of commitment, and just a few times in my life, it was just a very uncomfortable moment where I had to swallow my pride and just without understanding why, admit that I had failed or needed to change, and take the advice from mentors to try another way.
Okay.
And I did that a couple of times, and it actually worked. But I mean, in terms of Glide's success, Glide is not successful yet. It's very easy. It's much easier to look like a successful software company than to be one. Yeah. And we're on the right track. But we view Glide as so young and so early and very promising, and with a lot of enthusiastic customers. We're doing a great job, but we say Glide is not yet 1% complete. It's just super early.
Yeah, that's true. But it's already very successful. Now, you mentioned a couple of things that from the personal side, we don't have enough time to dig into the personal stuff, but I think that's where people could learn a lot, which is, you said you were for 20 years relentlessly introspective, which I've never heard that. That's actually a very interesting way of putting that. Could you elaborate on what that means? I'm very interested on that part. Relentlessly.
Yeah, I mean, you might also call it self-centered or egocentric.
Okay, so I was thinking it was more of a positive thing. That
was kind of a joke, but
okay.
It wasn't like so much a self-love, but I mean, one thing that's pretty remarkable about being conscious is that you are always available to look at.
That's true.
You can think directly about this mind that's thinking. I think, therefore I am. Yes. Even if you're a brain in a vat, there's something to study there. And I've always just been kind of fascinated by my own mind as an object of contemplation, which led me to do philosophy. And so, yeah, that's been a good hobby or inclination for self-improvement.
So that's helped you basically to what they say, know thyself better, right? Understand how your mind operates.
Yeah.
And that's interesting. And the other thing that you mentioned is that there's been a couple of moments in your life where something didn't go well. So you had to deal with a lot of adversity. And now you said also that you got sometimes pretty harsh feedback. Is that correct? Now, were you seeking this feedback, or was given to you, and in a sense was a blessing in disguise that allowed you to course correct?
Yeah, that's right.
That's what happened.
Yeah. Okay. And let me also just say, just to not to make myself sound more impressive than I am, like a lot of this was kind of strategic and aimed at doing the job that I'm doing right now. I'm not an enlightened being. And I've made trade-offs. It's like I'm not very good with my family. And, I love my family and I have a good relationship to them, but I definitely feel like my attention on my company contends with my attention and how I treat them.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely, the tide hasn't risen all boats. It's kind of lumpy.
Oh, okay. Well, it makes sense. You're in growth mode right now. It's hard to find a balance, family and work. I do have, if I may suggest an idea, is I've been in that boat also where I'm just work. And in the last couple of years, I decided to make time to spend time with my family. But the only way I can get motivated to do that is if we have a common project. Whereas, can I do something with my mom or dad that would provide value to both? So in my case, I decided I'm going to create a Glide app where she can upload all her poetry. There you go. So now we work together for 2 months where she's sharing her love for poetry and I'm creating the technology for her to share with the world. Now we're spending time together. With my dad, I'm building a physical product, right? It's called Palocam. It's a camera that can climb poles and you can record games from a high vantage point, right?
Yeah.
He's an electrical engineer. He's retired. I'm like, what if I invite my father to join this project and we both work together to build this product? And now I'm like, of course I want to spend time with my dad because he's helping me build this side business. You know what I mean? Of course you need to find the time to do that as well, which I understand is extremely difficult when you have employees and you're growing, you have investors breathing down your neck and blah, blah, blah. Anyways, that is, it's hard to find that family work balance. All right. So we're almost done. The last question, I'm not going to do like, have you heard of Lex Friedman?
Yes.
He always starts, what's the meaning of life? By the way, you'd be awesome to be a guest there because he can go really deep into a lot of these concepts. It'd be amazing.
I'd love to go on his show.
It'll be very interesting to hear what you have to say. But I guess the last question I would have for you is, if you have any advice for anybody that wants to start a company like you, what would you suggest they do, the resources, anything that has helped you get to this point that you could point somebody to?
I would definitely say, but it's very helpful to start a company around something that you're very passionate about.
Okay.
So if you can identify something that you're like sort of unendingly curious about and fascinated by, and you spend nights and weekends on, you should really pursue that. And it's for me, at least, it's so hard to motivate myself. I couldn't just pick something off the shelf that seems like a good business idea. I think that's maybe sort of pure entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
I think people who just identify any opportunity and they build a company around it and they go for it. And it's just a skill I don't have because I don't care enough about just anything.
Yeah.
And so, maybe some people they have that desire to just create anything and they'll find the opportunity and do it. But for me, I really had to find something that captured my imagination. And luckily for me, that was like computers and internet and programming stuff, which is highly valuable right now.
Yeah.
So I guess that was kind of a, lucky collision that I was just sort of intrinsically interested in computers since I was a kid. And I got to study them. And then they're a very important component of the business that I'm building right now.
Yeah.
So I that's one thing I would recommend is like follow your curiosity and really develop your understanding of the things you're curious about.
Okay, those are great parting thoughts. Well, so thanks again, David Seigel, for joining me in this little interview, which I'm going to share with my YouTube channel on my list.
Cool.
And hopefully that helps to get more exposure and to really clarify what is your actual vision, because I think there's a little bit of misconception as to
That's
what
right.
you can do.
Yeah.
And we can go from there. And I'll keep using Glide and building apps in the meantime. So thanks so much for your time.
All right. Thank you.
Miguel here. I hope you enjoyed my interview with David Seigel from Glidepps. If you want to learn how to create mobile apps without coding using Glide, you can click on this tutorial to learn all the basics. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.